At the beginning of time and the dawn of civilization, Egyptians wove the first and most essential chapter in the Book of Textiles, an indispensable tool which no civilized man can be without. The story of Egyptian textiles is rooted in an understanding of the philosophy of life and eternity. It comes as no surprise that we find murals on the walls of ancient Egyptian temples depicting detailed scenes of textile manufacture next to others showing life and immortality. It is in this rich context that the ancient Egyptians emerged from prehistory as an urban civilization based on principles and ethics, steeped in refinement and beauty, while at the same time dependent on hard work and diligence, all in the hopes of achieving immortality in the afterlife. The shores of the Nile and natural resources were always generous in providing the ancient Egyptians with different types of plants that they would need to weave in life as well as on the journey to the afterlife. Flax was always a prized plant because it was transformed at the hands of skilled weavers into beautiful garments and sacred cloth used to cover mummies until the day of resurrection. This long tradition of weaving linen continued, using the same philosophy and tools known to the ancient Egyptians as they were recorded on the tomb walls. The stalks of the flax plant are gathered in bunches of similar size and are then soaked in water for a certain period of time in order to loosen the fibers from the stalk by action of mold and bacteria. This process is referred to as retting. After retting the flax, the fibers are hammered using a wooden tool, especially made for the purpose of separating the fibers. The thick fibers are collected and twisted into linen rope by the use of a special wooden instrument. As for the finer fibers, they are combed to remove the impurities from the flax. The fibers are drawn through a bed of nails, known as a heckling comb, to produce strings of thread so that the most skilled craftsman can weave it. The beauty of the textile is not limited to the vertical and horizontal threads seen by the naked eye. There is a third, symbolic thread that is sensed by the soul and represents the heaven and eternity. The next step is the process of dyeing, which is done manually and essentially dependent on extracting color from nature. Wool was another essential material used in weaving that was known from ancient times, especially since it is readily available and easily acquired from lambs. The wool that covers the lamb is gathered by shearing. The wool is then collected in baskets and hand-washed in the eternal river of the Nile. The next step is to expose the wool to sunlight and aerate it. Once it is completely dry, it goes through the different stages of weaving and dyeing. The Nile Valley is renowned for its cotton. The Egyptians realized that this white bud, which crowns the cotton stem, could provide a magnificent textile, notably finer than both linen and wool. The Egyptians until the present day have maintained the weaving traditions that they inherited. This includes the different processes and tools. The Description de l'Egypte, which reintroduced the world to Egyptian civilization, has several illustrations depicting details of textile weaving that the Egyptians inherited from their ancestors and which are still preserved and used today, forming a part of Egypt's eternal symphony. In order to create a wonderful textile of the kind for which the Egyptian artist is famed, no impressive factory or large number of weavers is required. Modest rooms suffice, where work is carried out patiently, silently, and efficiently. The work is heavily dependent on the manual loom, known throughout the Egyptian towns and villages, famed for their textile weaving. Made of palm and reed, a simple instrument unravels the thread to fill the shuttle, which is then inserted into the loom. The weft, or horizontal thread, is drawn under and over the perpendicular warp thread, both of which flow in accordance with the artist's desire. From the artist's soul, and with a gentle touch, the weft threads are loaded onto the shuttle. As the shuttle moves across the loom, the threads are gathered and fastened by a wooden instrument called a batten. The Egyptian loom is based on two frames, one of which is for the odd threads and the other for the even threads. To facilitate the flow of the threads, the frames are operated by weights and a foot pedal. A comb made of reed or metal wire combs the threads and gathers them. The concept of weaving from the dawn of history until today has been dependent on one essential condition: the presence of the third thread, the spirit. The threads of the Egyptian spirit are spun from the innocence of children, the beauty and graciousness of Egyptian women, and the wisdom, experience, and sophistication of Egyptian men. The Egyptian, son of the eternal Nile, plays with his sensitive fingertips a symphony composed of magnificent verses woven with art, beauty, and delicacy. Textile weaving presents to the world beautiful manifestations of nature that is the creation of the weaver. So long as there are souls that feel and spirits that sense, these fingertips will continue to weave the most magnificent compositions.